Hey there, young historians. Today is December 16th, 2020, and it is a Wednesday. On this day in history, in 1773, the Boston Tea Party occurred. We talked about this earlier on in the year. This was one of the acts by the Massachusettsian, the Bostonians, who were protesting against King George III. A group of them boarded one of the ships, the king's ships, dressed up as Mohawk Indians, and destroyed 342 chests of the king's delicious tea into the harbor, creating one gigantic tea kettle, or teapot, or teacup. The king was pretty upset about this. This was one of the events that led to the American Revolution. In 1950, President Harry Truman declared a state of emergency over the Korean War. Now, the Korean War is known as the Forgotten War. It is known as something that people don't really remember. The Korean War really lasted 3 years, from 50 to 53, in actual combat, but technically the war is still going on here in 2020. There's simply a truce or a ceasefire between North Korea and South Korea. Neither sides have agreed to full peace. The United States was engaged in this war, supporting South Korea. And right above me here, this is a memorial for the Korean War that is in Washington, D.C. In 1960, two airplanes crashed into each other over New York City. This was the first and only time this type of an accident has happened. Two passenger planes crashing into each other. All 128 passengers aboard died, and 6 people on the ground when those planes crashed into New York City. Happy birthday to Ludwig van Beethoven, the German composer. We heard his music Für Elise when we entered here today. He was born in 1770. He lived to be 56 years old. The famous, prodigious prodigy, prodigious prodigy. The composer composed lots of art, lots of work, and yeah, so there you go. You just heard him. He'd be 250 years old today, by the way. 5 years later, Jane Austen was born. She is the English author. She's known for her works like the story Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, Emma, and a few others. Jane Austen only lived to be 41 years old, tragically, but she would be 245 years old today. And lastly, another tragic story is the story of Jimmy Lee Jackson. Today is his birthday. He only lived to be 26 years old. Unfortunately, Jimmy Lee Jackson was killed by an Alabama state trooper back in 1965. He was a civil rights protester, and he was a church deacon. And he was protesting in response to other brutalities and unfairness, inequities for African Americans in this country. So he was speaking up on behalf of equity and equality for African Americans. He was at a protest march, and things got sort of violent, and he was protecting his mother and a grandfather when a police officer shot him in the stomach, and he died in Marion, Alabama. He'd be 82 years old today. We'll find out more about the civil rights movement later on this year. Feel free to search it yourself and find out a little bit more about Jimmy Lee Jackson and others if you'd like to. Okay, your code word today is Lego. You ready for it? Lego. Yeah, like the little building blocks. You'll find out why that is the code word today a little bit later on, but your word today is Lego. All right, I've got a new map behind me. You can see here. We're going to be using that because the Civil War is beginning. The North and the South, we needed a visual on it. We'll break it down a little bit more as we go forward here. All right, see you soon. Peace.